2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a quickly approaching Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and as always, streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel naked right now, and I'm not. I'm wearing shorts, I'm wearing boxers, I'm wearing socks, I'm wearing shoes, and I'm wearing a shirt. So I had to do a lot of promotional reads today before the show. I had to cut a lot of commercials, and we always thank our fine sponsors. And also, I had to do my sports minutes. And I had like 10 to 15 minutes before the start of the show. This article came out from ESPN with Seth Wickersham about this book that he has coming out regarding Caleb Williams. And I walk in to the production studio after I highlight everything and I sit down and I take care of business and do everything. And I thought I had like 20 minutes to start the show. And I'm sitting here bull bleeping with Stu, with Greg Frank, with also Anthony Gallo. And Stu goes to me, Zach, you ready for the show? You got 10 seconds. And I look up at the clock and I go, oh, bleep. So I ran into this studio right here. I don't have my headphones on right now, which actually is a blessing because now I don't have to hear Samter. I don't have to hear Stu if they interrupted me, which would be wonderful. You know, I kind of like this. But I get into the studio and I'm always prepared. And that's the first time that the show really just came up on you, and I was not ready to go at the start of this show. So here's what we got cooking for the next 3 hours. Mike North is going to join us, NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling. That will be at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. He's going to stop by with us, and we will chat about the NFL schedule that was released last night. Alrighty, I'm going to start off with this book that Seth Wickersham has. And in the past, I would be someone that would question Seth Wickersham's work because it had to do with my football team. And I have admitted this to Seth. I've admitted this on the air. I've admitted it off the air. Seth Wickersham ended up being right about almost everything with the Patriots. So when he has something, 9.9 times out of 10, it is accurate. You know, he's kind of like Jay Glazer, where Jay Glazer is one of the creme de la creme NFL insiders, but you don't see the frequency in the reporting of Jay Glazer as you do at Adam Schefter, as you do an Ian Rappaport, a Jordan Schultz, a Tom Pelissero, and so on and so on. But when Wickersham gets something, just like how when Jay Glazer gets something, it's a big news item that is explosive, and it is something that is jaw-dropping. So there was a lot going into last year's draft, not this past one, but the year before that, about how Caleb Williams was trying to avoid the Chicago Bears. So I gather from this article that I'm reading in front of me, and I'll read some excerpts from it. The name of the book that Seth Wickersham has coming out is called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. So in this book, it is revealed that Carl Williams, who is Caleb's father, told Seth Wickersham, Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die. Now, let me be clear here before I comment on all this stuff. And I highlighted a few things. There are a lot of things in this article that the way the Williams family says it, I actually agree with. But then there are some things that I don't like. So he is 100% right. I would be a fraud if I got on the air right now and I told you, hey, Carl Williams, you know, him saying Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die, that's ridiculous. Now, you may not like that the father of the Bears quarterback said this in the pre-draft process before he became the quarterback of the Bears, but that's not a wrong statement. That is something that I have said on this show many times before. If you're a quarterback, you get drafted by the Bears, that's usually where quarterbacks go to die. So Caleb Williams, also in this book, wondered aloud to confidants through this draft process, do I want to go there? I don't think I could do it with Shane Waldron. Now, Shane Waldron was the former offensive coordinator who ultimately got fired like early on, midway through the season, and it was his first year on the job. Now, Shane Waldron, you may recall, was coming over from Seattle, and when he got hired by the Bears, you had Jackson Smith and Jigba doing a radio interview on Radio Row, and he had to ask in the middle of his answer when he was being called into question to comment on this radio show about Shane Waldron. You had Jackson Smith and Jigba say, wait, is this thing live? Are we on the air right now? And they actually were. So I can't say that Caleb Williams ended up being wrong about Shane Waldron. Quite frankly, not only should Shane Waldron never have been hired by the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus should have never still have been the Bears coach last year. So as this article goes on, you had the father, Carl Williams, say, I don't want my son playing for the Bears. Williams told several agents in 2024, and he was looking around the league, the father, with the history of the league, and he also met with labor lawyers and agents and even considered whether his son could sign with the United Football League and become an unrestricted NFL free agent in 2025 to be able to pick a team. In addition to the draft process, Carl Williams vented about the rookie wage scale, which could lock his son into the team that drafted him for up to 8 years. He calculated hundreds of $millions of lost market value income. The rookie cap is just unconstitutional, Carl Williams told Wickersham, later adding that the CBA is the worst piece of bleep I've ever read. It's the worst in sports history. So 2 things off of that. Number one, if you're trying to orchestrate your way away from the number 1 overall pick, I know that there's past precedent and there's past circumstances, but I'm talking about in the year of 2024. The idea that the Williams family considered going to the United Football League, playing there for a year, to then become an NFL free agent, that's absurd. Like, there is part of me, either force your way to another NFL team or you suck it up and you play for the Chicago Bears, which is ultimately what happened. Now, in terms of Carl Williams, I can't sit here and have a ridiculous amount of sympathy for when his kid gets drafted and he gets like $25-30 million, whatever that rookie contract is. But he's not wrong in terms of this rookie cap. Because years ago, like, you would get drafted and you would get a $70-80 million contract. So yes, even though it's millionaires complaining about how many millions they have, and a lot of us just roll our eyes and a lot of us say, all right, like, come on, you're making enough money as it is. If I saw what the league used to be, it's the rare time, and it's probably the only time, whereas the NFL, which is a cash cow, just keeps on raking in cash. And right, the salary cap just keeps on increasing exponentially. And each and every year, the NFL just goes up in terms of value, billions and billions and billions of dollars. The rookie scale is the one thing where it was better to be a rookie 15, 20 years ago than it is to be a rookie, and not only a rookie, but a top draft pick now. So as this goes on, it gets to the combine in this Wickersham piece. And in this Wickersham book where some excerpts were released. At the NFL Combine that year, Williams met with Minnesota. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell and the two hit it off. And Caleb Williams began to dream of what it would be like to play for Minnesota. I need to go to the Vikings, he told his father. Let's do it, his father replied. But Caleb and Carl knew that a trade to a divisional rival was extremely unlikely. Bears GM Ryan Poles stood firm, telling Williams, we're drafting you no matter what. Now, here's what I'll say. If Caleb Williams tried to avoid the Bears and he told the Bears, hey, I'm not interested in playing for you, you're allowed to do that. Quite frankly, do I love it? No. But it's in his right to do that. With that being said, though, it is also in the right of Ryan Poles to tell Caleb Williams, go, pound sand. We're drafting you either way, whether you like it or not, and you'll either play for us or you won't play in the NFL. And that's the proper approach if you are Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. Because if you want to look at the NBA and the NFL, and remember when you had a few jackasses that actually thought the NBA was chipping away at the NFL, and you had idiots. Like, seriously, looking back at this, I don't think there could be a colder take in the history of sports than the morons that said, not only is the NBA catching the NFL, they're going to usurp them in short order. Look at the difference from the NBA to the NFL. The NBA genuflects and lets the players run the league. The NFL does not. And even though you may think that's unfair, the NFL just totally runs circles around the NBA because there is a lot more structure and a lot more of a hierarchy and a lot more rules that are actually followed in the NFL compared to the NBA, where the NBA is all about player empowerment, right? Look at sports right now that are all about player empowerment. You look at college athletics, it's all about the players right now. You look at the NBA, all about the players, and look how much of a mess NIL is, even though I'm pro NIL. The transfer portal is, how it's the Wild West in college athletics, and it's actually nice that the players are actually starting to finally win in college athletics because they have got abused by the NCAA, such a weak institution and a lame institution for all those years. But with that being said, you look at the success of the NFL. Why does the NFL keep on getting more popular? First off, we're all addicted to it. But secondly, there is a good structure in place where you know where the hierarchy is. And also, the NFL isn't afraid to tell the players no, where the NBA is afraid to tell the players no. And even though players are what make us tune in, even though I watch and I root for teams because of players, and right, you play fantasy and you gamble on players and all that stuff, just because you're a great player doesn't mean the player's a great GM or doesn't mean a player would be a great owner. Like, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. He was a horrible owner. I know Tom Brady's a minority owner now of the Vegas Raiders. We'll see what he does. I saw today that Charles Woodson got a small, a minuscule percentage of the Cleveland Browns. So you go through it, the NFL has structure. And the NBA, the players just run right through the owners. And I think the structure of the NFL is a lot better. So we continue on with this. That left one option after the Bears GM Ryan Poles stood firm telling Williams, we're drafting you no matter what. And don't get me wrong, if I'm Caleb Williams and you said to me, you could go to the Vikings or the Bears, where would you rather go? At the time, I got O'Connell against Eberflus. Yeah, easily O'Connell. I got Justin Jefferson over DJ Moore, and DJ Moore didn't want me there to begin with because he still wanted Justin Fields. Easily, even if DJ Moore wanted him, I'd rather have Justin Jefferson. So I understand why Caleb Williams want to force his way to the Vikings, but Ryan Poles did the right thing in standing his ground and telling Caleb Williams that no. So that left one option: to publicly attack the Bears in the city of Chicago, hoping that it would make the situation unattainable, similar to what Jack and John Elway had done with the Baltimore Colts in 1983. He's worried about me taking bullets, Carl Williams told Wickersham of his son. I don't care. I just don't disagree. I don't agree with this bleep, I'm more interested in making sure that he could do what he wants to do. But Caleb was concerned that if they did try and the Bears refused to trade him, it would make a tough situation worse. In the end, Caleb Williams told Wickersham, I wasn't ready to nuke the city. After a pre-draft visit to the Bears facility, Williams believed he could be part of the process to turn the franchise around. I could do it for this team, Caleb told his dad. I'm going to the Bears. So that's how Caleb Williams finally said, yes, you're allowed to pick me in the NFL draft, and I'll be good with it. So a lot of this comes out, and a lot of this was speculated prior to the draft. And I'm not going to sit here and yell about the approach of Caleb Williams and Carl Williams. And some of what they are saying has some validity to it. But with that being said, this puts even more of a target on Caleb Williams' back. Because Caleb Williams was labeled as a generational talent. Caleb Williams won a Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams was a can't-miss prospect. And let's be real. In his first year, it wasn't as if Caleb Williams was horrible. He didn't suck. He wasn't miserable. But he didn't pop off. He wasn't great. Where you look at the rest of the draft, Jaden Daniels had the greatest rookie season we've ever seen from a quarterback. Drake May had nothing around him, and he was solid. Bo Nix, no one thought he was going to be really any good in the NFL, and he took a team to the playoffs. And yes, we'll see now what J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. does. But you've had the last two generational prospects in the draft, right? In terms of quarterbacks. Andrew Luck looked like he was well on his way. That's a tongue twister. But injuries ended up derailing his career. Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be all that, and so far, he's been underwhelming as an NFL quarterback. So for Caleb Williams, I think if you're a Bears fan, you may not care about this stuff because you knew probably part of it was true, and you're probably sitting back saying, yeah, we haven't had a quarterback. We've never had a 4,000-yard passing quarterback in the history of the NFL. So I would understand why he was trying to avoid the Bears. Now he's there, though. Now he's yours. And the only time this is going to be brought back up by Bears fans is if Caleb Williams doesn't hold up his end of the bargain. And if Caleb Williams doesn't play well. Because if Caleb Williams doesn't play well and Bears fans start to look around and say, Drake May's better. Jaden Daniels better. J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix. Like, if you have one guy, right, Daniels right now, and then you got others, and Williams never pops off, where there was always a bizarre feel about Williams in the pre-draft process, if I'm just being honest. Like, you knew his talent was great, but there always just seemed like there was something off. And, right, there were questions about his leadership. And you were wondering if that's true or not. But you didn't really hear about any of that this year. There were times he looked dejected on the sidelines, but if I was playing for Matt Eberflus, I would be dejected on the sidelines. So with all that being said, the only time a Bears fan will bring this back up is if Caleb Williams doesn't hold up his end of the bargain, and then Bears fans will say, well, dude, we don't love you. You didn't want to be here as well, and you've gone on to be a bust. And they'll question his commitment level. But I go into this NFL season, and I look at pressure on quarterback-coach duos. I think there is a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous amount of pressure on Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in year one. Caleb Williams, the quarterback, year one was not great. Caleb Williams in year number one had another rookie quarterback in his own draft class significantly outplay him in Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams needs to produce on the field this year. And Ben Johnson is Mr. Brainiac. Ben Johnson is the offensive wizard. Ben Johnson, he's cocky. He's arrogant. And you have a team right now in Chicago where you've totally revamped the offensive line. You brought in Tooney, you brought in Jackson, you brought in Dolman, you have Roma Dunze, he's got to get going. You got DJ Moore, you just drafted a tight end, you just drafted a wide receiver with your first 2 picks. There's no more excuses. You have Ben Johnson, you have the quarterback, and you have the talent. And that duo together, if the Bears with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams don't make the playoffs this year and you're number one, it's a failure of a season. It's a disaster. So let's go around the room here, and I think I'll be able to hear you guys if I mute my microphone. But let's go to Stu first. Who is the quarterback head coach duo in the NFL? If I'm giving you Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, that's under a tremendous amount of pressure this year.
So for me, I think it is the Dolphins duo of Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel. Now, especially McDaniel, I think if they don't make the playoffs, and I don't really expect them to make the playoffs, but if they don't make the playoffs or at least come very, very close.
Fringe.
Yeah, they're fringe. I mean, he has very well could get fired. And if Tua has another injury-plagued year or not a good year, I know they owe him a lot of money, but this could be the beginning of the end of Tua in Miami as well.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of McDaniel. I have stood by that. I've always said I feel like I am never in on the inside joke, and I do believe that his act is going to, if it hasn't already, it's going to start to wear very thin. All right, let's go to Samter, quarterback coach duo going into the season that's under a tremendous amount of pressure.
All right, I got a list about 12. No, I'm just joking.
I can't interrupt you today because then I can't hear you. So you could go on and on and on and on and on. This is very dangerous what we're doing until I get my headphones during the break. Just speak. I know now that you're not speaking because my microphone was off. Now speak. You're not a mime. No one can see you.
I was trying to fake it and see what you were going to say. For me, it's the 49ers. Brock Purdy in line for a big contract. So if he gets the contract, there's that kind of pressure. If he doesn't get the contract and he's playing for a new contract, that's a big deal. With all the different differences and losses they had on offense and defense, there's more pressure on Purdy's shoulders. And obviously Shanahan, while there's all this love for him, 6-11 seasons pretty rough. Despite the injuries, there were still higher expectations for them. So, well, I don't think he's on the hot seat per se. If they have another really down season and it feels like the window is starting to close in San Fran, then maybe there's something going on there with Shanahan on the warmer seat.
888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Who is a quarterback coach duo that's under a tremendous amount of pressure for this season? We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We will also chat a little NBA. Can Ant have his moment this year? We'll look at the future of the Warriors and the Timberwolves advancing to the conference finals last night. And should Knicks fans be concerned after losing last night and getting blown out in the second half? This series is now 3-2, still in favor of New York, with Game 6 at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, on Friday night.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb's show on the Infinity Sports Network. Last night in the association, they were tied up at halftime, and then in the second half, the Celtics just steamrolled the New York Knicks, especially in that third quarter, outscoring New York 32-17, and the Celtics will send this one back to MSG for tomorrow evening with a Game 6 tilt after the Celtics did defeat the Knicks 127-102. I'll give you a thought on that in just a second, but you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, what a scene that was last night in Minnesota as they are now going back to the Western Conference Finals, back-to-back season. Last year, right, they were expected to win the Western Conference Finals, and they came up short up against the Dallas Mavericks. And you look at the Timberwolves, they took care of the Warriors 121-110 last night, and Minnesota quickly did dispose of the Golden State Warriors in 5 games, and that was after dropping the first game where Golden State won, but then you had Steph Curry get hurt, and after Steph Curry got hurt, it was, okay, can you just get one until you get to a Game 6 and then see if Steph Curry could even come back and even be effective, but at least give you a chance with the greatest shooter of all time. And obviously the Warriors without Steph Curry look lost. And Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green needed to carry this team, and they failed to do so. So I'll get to the future of the Warriors in just a second, but true or false here? I'm curious if you guys think this statement is true or false. I'll start with you, Samter. The pressure on the team to win the NBA Finals the most and win the Larry O'Brien Trophy this year is the Oklahoma City Thunder. But out of all the players and all the teams remaining, the individual that has the most pressure on them to win the NBA Finals would be Anthony Edwards. So I think the Thunder as a team have the most pressure, especially with the Pacers already through, the Timberwolves already through, a good chance that the Knicks get through tomorrow night. If they don't, though, and somehow Boston comes back to win this series, it's a Celtics team without Jason Tatum. And you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's not a lock that they're going to get past the Denver Nuggets, but I would say it's about 85, 90% chance that they're going to do so, up 3-2. And let's be real, Nikola Jokic had a great game the other night, and he got no help from his Nuggets teammates, and the Thunder ended up winning that game coming from behind. So the Thunder had 68 wins, back-to-back seasons where they're the number one overall seed. The Oklahoma City Thunder, to me, they are the team with the most pressure on them to get to the NBA Finals and win it. But the individual player that I think has the most pressure on him to win a championship out of all the teams that still remain would be Anthony Edwards. Do you think that is a true or false statement?
I think that's true.
Stu, do you disagree with that?
I don't. I think it's true as well.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty easy because you look at Anthony Edwards, he is starting to get the crown, or they're starting to take the measurements for him to put that crown on his head and pass the baton as the future face of the league. And you look at a face of the league, not only do you have to have a talent on the court, but you got to be a personality. You got to be a little bit polarizing. I don't think people hate Anthony Edwards, to be clear. Like, you look at LeBron, you either love him or you hate him. I'm not saying that people hate Anthony Edwards, but he's not afraid to throw it back in your face, and he's an enormous personality. Like, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league. He's a zero as a personality. Giannis Antetokounmpo, second best player in the league, isn't really much as a personality. Like, he is genuine, he is compassionate, he is authentic at the podium, but I wouldn't say he's a mega personality. And you look at someone like Anthony Edwards, last year got to the conference finals, and let's be real, since the Timberwolves weren't expected to be there and they got there, even though they blew that moment and that opportunity, we all praised the Minnesota Timberwolves pretty much looking back at their run. This year, though, Minnesota made a big trade. They got Julius Randle. They got Dante DiVincenzo. They said goodbye to Karl Anthony Towns in that trade. And Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, they weren't bad in the regular season. They were probably underappreciated, especially with how crammed the Western Conference was. They were only a game behind I think it was the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Yeah, the game behind the Lakers, they ended up quickly taking care of in 5 games in the NBA playoffs, and no one was talking about them. Really, going into the playoffs, it was like, they haven't been that good this year. It wasn't that they weren't that good. It was just that you expected them to be top 3 good in terms of seeding, and they weren't that far off from that in their win total. But when they didn't pop off in the regular season, people then thought, they weren't going to take that next step. But how many times have we seen teams in the history of the NBA, especially in the last decade plus, that they know what's expected out of them? They don't take the regular season that seriously, and then come postseason time, they turn up. We've seen the Heat do it. We've seen the Cavs do it. We've seen the Golden State Warriors do it. And you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, they had to find their way this year with some new pieces, and now they're playing at a very high level. So if we get this collision course of Thunder and Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are already there, and maybe the Thunder get through tonight, or they send it back to Oklahoma City for a Game 7, then it turns into a situation where, let's just say the Thunder get through, you get the best team remaining in the Oklahoma City Thunder, but then you look at Anthony Edwards, he's a dude that could strap up, he's a dude that can find a way to be that great, where he could really have that moment where not only has he been called the face of the league and the future face of the league, but he could really take that crown and give you something tangible and put it on his head, where if he gets to the NBA Finals and he slays the best team remaining in the Oklahoma City Thunder in that process. Now, you still have to then go get 4 more wins after that, but that would be an enormous moment, and it does feel like even though the Knicks and the Pacers are expected to still get to the conference finals, like Pacers are already in, I still think the Knicks will find a way to take care of Boston tomorrow night, but whoever wins the West is going to be not only the favorite, but I would imagine the heavy favorite to go win the NBA championship this year. Now, the future of the Warriors, I don't think it's that bright. Like, I don't think the Warriors are going to be a bad team. The Warriors will be flirting just on that play-in line. Maybe they could do a little bit better than the play-in. Steph has suffered a few injuries now as of late. We still know when he's healthy, he's the heartbeat of that team, and he's unbelievable. Draymond, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze anymore, but the Golden State Warriors clearly do. And yes, you do have Jimmy Butler, but the aura of Jimmy Butler now in his mid-30s isn't what it once was. Now, he's still a very good player, but I don't fear Jimmy Butler anymore like he used to have that mystique to him when he was in Miami. He wasn't on the best teams, and he found a way to will those teams to 2 NBA Finals appearances. So I think they'll be good. I think they'll be solid. But do I think they're a team that I'm looking at and saying, oh, with the way that they're currently constructed, they'll win a championship again? No, I do not. So that's my thoughts on the future of the Warriors. Now, as I already kind of told you about the Knicks, last night the second half was embarrassing. I think a lot of people underestimated, and not me, because I thought it was going to be a close game last night. I was wrong on that. I thought there was like a 55% chance, just a little bit above a coin flip, that the Knicks could win that game last night. But I do think even without Jason Tatum, even with the help of the officials, if we're just being honest, because some of those calls were laughable last night, and also being at home in a great environment like Boston, but more importantly, all kidding aside, the heart of a champion, that's what got underestimated. And there's a lot of players on that team that won a championship clearly last year, and you know they're not going to go down without a fight. I will tell you something I don't like with the Knicks, not that you expect them to win every game, but they were up 2-0, and they had a chance to just totally kill the Boston Celtics in Game 3. And they were flat right out of the gate. Then up 3-1 after winning Game 4 with their back up against the walls in Game 4, because it was if they lose, it's 2-2, and then you feel like the series is over. But you go up 3-1. Jason Tatum's now not playing. The Knicks actually were fine early. Like, they didn't play great, and they were still tied at halftime. But in the second half, that was just a terrible effort. And you saw what they did in the first half of Game 3 pop back up in the second half of Game 5. So I'm still going to trust this team in Game 6 because they responded off of getting called out by Jalen Brunson, the lack of urgency, and he did it again last night. So what does it mean at this point? But they responded with the victory in Game 4. I do believe you'll see a Game 4 performance in Game 6 at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. So here's what I think you're going to see. Pacers are already through. I think they'll get the Knicks, and I think you'll see that by tomorrow. And the Thunder are needing to take care of business up against the Nuggets tonight. If they don't, then there's a Game 7. I'm not totally sold on the Thunder doing this tonight. Right now, though, I would lean OKC, but I'm not totally confident in it. And obviously, if the Thunder win tonight, then they will go on and they will play the Minnesota Timberwolves, who secured their ticket to the Western Conference Finals again last night. So the two teams that got to their conference finals last year that are still remaining, the Pacers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are already through, and now we're waiting to see if the Thunder and Knicks can join. And I think ultimately those will be the final 4 teams remaining. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. The NFL schedule was released yesterday. Mike North, the NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling, will join us at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. When we come on back, though, what is the best traditional NFL rivalry and what's the best non-traditional NFL rivalry that we currently have going in the National Football League? Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. The Thunder tore down their team and have built it back up well, and tonight look to advance the conference finals for the first time since 2016. They have a 3-2 series lead heading into tonight's Game 6 in Denver, and with the exception of Game 2, each of these games has come down to the final minute. Baseball action this afternoon, make it 11 straight for the Twins, who are now 24-20 after a 4-0 shutout of the Orioles in Baltimore today. Chris Paddock was the winner. He moves to 2-3. The Reds top the White Sox by a score of 7-1. Nick Martinez going 7 strong innings for his second win of the season, and the Braves defeated the Nationals by a score of 5-2. A.J. Smith-Shawver with the win. The Rays lead the Blue Jays 3-2 in the bottom half of the second. Right now at the PGA Championship, and it is North Carolina native Ryan Gerard, who is the leader at 5 under par, 1 shot better than Luke Donald, among others. And Scotty Scheffler is 2 under. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will get to the NFL rivalries coming up in just a second. Best traditional NFL rivalry and best non-traditional NFL rivalry that we currently have going in the league that we love the most. But first, this portion of the show is sponsored by Hyundai. The Hyundai Getaway Sales event is going on now. Get deals so right, it almost feels wrong, but don't wait. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. So I was going through the entire schedule week by week, and Mike North, who creates the schedule, is going to join us coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time, because I got some questions about it. And I felt like Samter, honestly, because I said to Samter, I'm going to give you a list, and there's only going to be 10, and I was going to give you my top 10 games, and then I wrote down 18 games that really just stood out to me. So there's an 18-game regular season. I said, oh, that's a good number. Coming up at 5, I'll give you the 18 games that I like the most for this NFL season. But I was going through a bunch of them, and I was like, oh, you get rivalries here. And some of those rivalries are traditional rivalries, right? Have been rooted in us for years. And then others have become rivalries within the last 5 to 10 years. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the schedule this year. The traditional rivalries always will, because they're divisional games. But the non-traditional ones may not always be on your schedule. The one I'm going to pick, it is on the schedule. And it's starting to feel like Brady Manning, if I'm being honest. But I'll get to that in just a bit. Let's do the traditional rivalry first. I think the best traditional rivalry in the NFL, the one that I enjoy the most, is Steelers and Ravens. The two teams just beat the crap out of each other. It's a tremendous year in and year out, great division in the AFC North. I know the Steelers have lost their luster a little bit the last 7 years or so, 8 years or so, because they haven't won a playoff game, but that's still a well-respected organization. You got Mike Tomlin. You always remember, really before Big Ben did retire, right? You had those Big Ben teams with Hines Ward, even at times Jerome Bettis, right? Going back then through the years, Le'Veon Bell, and you had Antonio Brown. And for the Ravens, you would have the defense where it'd be led by Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and Elodie Nada. It was always, and Terrell Suggs. It was always just fun matchups where you always knew it felt like it was going to be a 3-point game. It was going to be tough to score, and they would beat the snot out of one another. So I think the best traditional NFL rivalry to me, the one that is always exciting with teams that usually you feel like are always in the playoffs, are the Steelers and the Ravens, especially during this Tomlin-Harbaugh era, even though, I did mention some players that did predate both those coaches as well, and maybe even go back to the Bill Cowher days, and even, I guess you could say, Brian Billick when he was the head football coach of the Baltimore Ravens. All righty, Samter, what's your best traditional NFL rivalry?
I think you got to go with Eagles-Cowboys because it's so high profile and it's been so interesting over the course of decades between the Jimmy Johnson and Andy Reid years to now and the current, just that NFC. And honestly, if you took any of the 4 NFC East teams and paired them with someone else, there's a rivalry with every one of them. So I had to choose between all. But I think Eagles-Cowboys of the NFC East rivalries is probably the best one currently and all time.
Now, I'm not usually a 1-1A guy. This would have been a time I had a 1-1A. The Steelers-Ravens were my 1, but the one that you mentioned, no disrespect to the Eagles and Cowboys, a great rivalry. And right, the fan base is also what makes it so fun because Philly fans, they hate the Cowboys. Hate them. Like, if you're ever at an Eagles-Giants game, let's say, at Lincoln Financial Field, and if you're a Giants fan, and let's say you're afraid of the Eagles fans, just say Cowboys suck, and you guys will bond. Same things with Commanders fans and Eagles fans. There is a true hatred, 365, for the Dallas Cowboys, but Eagles-Cowboys was not my 1A. So I won't give you my 1A away because I want to see if Stu could get it. But Stu, what is the best traditional NFL rivalry? And I think I know. I think you may take mine, but if you don't, then I know what yours is going to be.
So I'm not going with the Raiders one.
Okay, then never mind.
This one has not been the most competitive over the last decade, but Packers-Bears for me, it just feels like that's like football. That's like the definition of football right there when both teams are on. And it's been pretty close overall. Like the Packers have 108, Bears 96, so it's been a really competitive series all time.
For the last 15 years, it has not felt close.
Not felt close, but hopefully the Bears can get back to that point.
Yeah.
And we'll see that, but that just is a fun rivalry to me.
Like, if we're being honest, the trajectory of the Bears right now is in a good spot. Now, it's all based off potential, and potential means you haven't done it yet. And the Green Bay Packers, they made the playoffs again this year, but a year ago they won a playoff game. This past year, they did not. That was my 1A. I had Packers and Bears. The reason I went with the Steelers and Ravens over Packers and Bears, just it's been so much closer to the Steelers and Ravens the last 10 to 15 years than Packers and Bears have. You didn't have like Big Ben or Ray Lewis ever screaming to the other fan base, I own you, and it could be unquestioned and just accepted, like what you had with Aaron Rodgers and Bears fans a few years ago. Best non-traditional NFL rivalry. So, like, for example, even though they were in the same division for a little bit, like Patriots-Colts wasn't a traditional rivalry, then it really took off when Brady and Manning were there. So currently, I think the best non-traditional NFL rivalry, I was going to use, right, the Chiefs and the Bengals, and I thought going into last year, that was the closest thing that we had to Brady Manning in a long time. But after seeing them meet up in the playoffs again and, right, lose again, I'm going to say it's Chiefs-Bills. And it's just the iconic moments that you've had in those games so far where the Bills keep on beating them in the regular season, but then come postseason time, it's not like the Bills don't show up. The Buffalo Bills, right, you had that 13-second game. Then you had Tyler Bass missing a kick. Stephon Diggs dropping that 70-yard pass down the right sideline. It's just wild how these games do end. And this year, once again, they met in the playoffs, and the Chiefs got the better part of the Buffalo Bills once again. So I go best non-traditional NFL rivalry is Chiefs and Bills. Samter?
It's really hard because it feels like all of them involve the Chiefs in some way for the most part, like whether it was the Chiefs, Bengals, Chiefs, Bills. So I'm trying to go away from that. I'm looking at Bills, Ravens. Bills, Ravens are probably like they're the two teams that are battling for second place in the AFC, and they're both those teams with MVP quarterbacks who are trying to get over the Patrick Mahomes hump, right? There's always like one guy in the way, like Michael Jordan couldn't get past the Pistons, or LeBron couldn't get past the Pistons, I guess, also. And so there was always like a team blocking a star from winning the Super Bowl or a title, and it feels like that the Chiefs are blocking both the Bills and the Ravens. So for me, the Bills and Ravens, and plus now you have this Lamar, Josh Allen MVP debate where they're both trying to who should have won it, who could win it, and they're both
and the Bills
in the
beat them twice
conversation
in the
every
playoffs
year.
too.
Yeah, so I think, and that's the other part of it, that the Bills beat the Ravens twice, so they're both battling to get to that next step.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't have considered that one, but the way you lay it out, it's tough to disagree with it. Stu, what do you got?
So these two teams only play probably once every 3 or 4 years, unless they play in the Super Bowl, which they did last year and 2 of the last 3 years, and that's the Chiefs and Eagles. I'm not sure if they hate each other like a traditional rivalry would, but I just think you have the Chiefs who have been the class of the NFL the past 5 years. The Eagles, their 2 Super Bowls over the past 5 or 6 years. I think those are the two teams right now that everyone's looking up at. So I think automatically they're kind of just right there, pinned as rivals almost.
It's kind of crazy how 1 year can change everything in terms of answering this question. Because if we did this question last year and you said Eagles, wouldn't we have said Eagles 49ers?
Yeah, I consider that one.
And hey, let's be real. We played a part in that with the whole Deebo Samuel interview and all that. But the 49ers now, they're a team that are fascinating to me because it seems like people are out on the Niners. And I'm not saying they're out of sight, out of mind, but when you miss the playoffs, it's like, okay, you kind of lower the expectations for the Niners. But I think the Niners are a playoff team this year. The question is, can they morph back into a Super Bowl contender? I just got a text. It's a long text. It is like a paragraph text. And it starts off, I have a Hickey-level hot take / unpopular opinion. And this comes from the guitar player for Avril Lavigne, David Immerman. It's I have about 45 seconds here. You know what? We'll do this. We will tease this because I got to read through this as well. But David Immerman just texted me in the moment saying he has a Hickey-level hot take / unpopular opinion. You don't know how happy that makes me. That a rock star, right, listens to our show, has become a friend, and is texting me and also taking a shot at Hickey in the moment, prefacing, you may scream about what I'm about to say. So I'm going to try to calm you down by just saying it's a Hickey-level opinion. We'll evaluate that opinion. We'll do a Super Bowl draft next. Also, Mike North, who makes the schedule, will join us 25 minutes from now. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We did a segment in the last segment, and it was best rivalry going right now that's traditional in the NFL and non-traditional. So for non-traditional, I said Bills-Chiefs. Right, Samter ended up saying Ravens-Bills. Stu said Chiefs-Eagles. I also threw on that list, you could say Chiefs-Bengals, you could say Packers-49ers, and you could say Lions-Rams, also with the Stafford-Goff connection, and Kelly Stafford not being happy with those Lions fans. So I got a text during this from David Immerman, who is the great guitarist for Avril Lavigne, and he's a big-time listener to the show. And he said, I have a hickey-level hot take / unpopular opinion. The Saints-Falcons rivalry is completely one-sided. Everyone in New Orleans despises Atlanta to the point that I grew up in Atlanta and I can't tell people where I'm from. I'm sure some diehard Falcons fans hate the Saints, but I'm telling you, nobody in Atlanta cares that much. I get that it's a divisional rivalry, but New Orleans don't loathe the Panthers or Bucks. The hate is totally one-sided. Hope someone can prove me wrong. So that is his hickey-level hot take / unpopular opinion. I will say, I've heard a lot about Saints-Falcons. I will also say I do a weekly hit in football season on WFNZ in Charlotte. And I do feel like the Panthers fans, whenever I go on there, they hate the Saints. Remember, like 2 years ago, the Saints were supposed to win that division, and I said, no chance they're going to win that division. I'll take the field. And they absolutely loved that, not just because then it gave the Panthers a chance, and I made it abundantly clear it gave the Panthers still zero chance because the Panthers were in a terrible spot that time. But it seemed like there was a lot of hatred with the Panthers fans and Saints fans. So the Saints-Falcons, I don't know if everyone in Atlanta doesn't care about the Saints, because you know what was weird? When I was at the national championship game in Atlanta, and that was between Ohio State and Notre Dame, there was a fan who showed up there in a black T-shirt, Falcons fan. And it just said on his shirt, "I hate the Saints." So I don't know if everyone in Atlanta doesn't hate the Saints, but that's David's perspective here and his hot take, so we'll take it for what it's worth. Alrighty, Stu, do we have some NFL music? Let's get that fired away before we get to Mike North, who makes the schedule, the NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling. We will pester him about our scheduling questions coming up in about 15 minutes or so from now. But we'll do this with the schedule coming out yesterday. Super Bowl draft. We're going to have 5 picks each. Teams to just win it all this year. Stu, you want to go first or you want to go second? I'll give you the choice here. I'm assuming you want to go second because then you get 2 picks.
Yeah, I'll go second.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. Kansas City always gets to the Super Bowl, and then it's a matter of do they just win it? I'm going to take Kansas City because they still have the best quarterback in the NFL, who's coming off pretty much a down year for him. But in Patrick Mahomes, I will go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, with my first pick, I'll go with the Eagles. There are a couple teams we'll talk about shortly that I think the gap between them and the second-place team in the NFC is a little more than the AFC, so I will go with the Eagles for my first pick.
Well, before you get to your second pick, I was looking at the Eagles' schedule.
It's tough.
Cowboys to open it up, then in KC, you get the Rams, then at the Bucks and Denver. That's the first 5 games. Cowboys, who were hurt last year, but they could be a playoff team. Chiefs, who are still one of the standard teams in the NFL. Rams, playoff team, who you beat in the playoffs last year. Tampa Bay, playoff team. Denver, playoff team. So pretty much 4 playoff teams from a year ago, and then another playoff caliber team with the Dallas Cowboys. Then you get the Giants, Vikings, Giants, bye week, Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas, Chicago, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Bills, and the Commanders. Think about the end to that schedule. Commanders, Bills, Commanders. And we talked about the first 5 weeks. Then you get the Vikings in week 7, the Packers in week 10, the Lions in week 11. We'll see what the Bears do in week 13. You got some damn marquee games there. Like a lot of games where you just go, wow, those are awesome to watch. The Eagles only have 6 scheduled 1 o'clock games right now. So that's the Eagles schedule. So the Eagles are off the board. Who's your next team?
So my next team, I'll go with the Bills. I guess I'm a little concerned with the weaponry around Josh Allen, but this is more of a bet on Josh Allen, as good as he is, that at some point he's going to lead this team to a Super Bowl. So I would go with the Bills, my second pick, number 3 overall.
Okay, I will then, with the Chiefs, Eagles, and Bills off the board, I will take the Detroit Lions, who got hit with the injury bug last year, but they were cruising. They still had a great regular season, but in the postseason, they got stunned by Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. So I will take the Detroit Lions off the board. Next pick. I could go into the AFC, but I'm going to stay in the NFC. And I'm going to go with a team that they have retooled this roster, but because their quarterback is older, I don't know how much longer of a window that they have guaranteed. Probably it's year to year at this point. You got Matthew Stafford, you got Puka Nacua, you got Devontae Adams, you got Kyron Williams. On the defensive side, you got Young, you got Turner, you got Fisk, you got Jared Verse, who is phenomenal. I'm going to take the LA Rams, who I do believe have a very complete team. Oh, yeah, and let's not forget about our guy Quinton Lake in that secondary, too. I like how complete the Rams are, and I will also say this about the Rams. I look at what they were able to do in the NFL draft. I know they traded to get a first-round pick next year from Atlanta. Them taking Josiah Stewart, who I thought could have been a first-round pick, and them getting him in the 3rd round at pick 90, I thought was a very good pick. And he has a fun story with the rise of Josiah Stewart from Coastal Carolina to then ending up the last few years at Michigan. So I will take the LA Rams, also coached by Sean McVay. Stu, who's your next pick?
All right, for my next pick, I will go with the Ravens. Again, similar to the Bills, this is obviously Lamar Jackson led, I think, at some point. You would hope he has that success in the postseason that he really hasn't had yet. But obviously, you feed the ball to Derrick Henry. Defense has a lot of pieces. I do think the Ravens do have a good chance to win a Super Bowl this year.
And Derrick Henry also got that new contract the other day. He got a 2-year extension, 2 years, $30 million extension for King Henry, who is an absolute stud. The thing with the Ravens, though, you see what happened the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they got to the AFC Championship game at home. And let's be real, the Chiefs' offense was abysmal in that game. And the Ravens couldn't do enough. You had the Zay Flowers fumble, but still, they were trying to get back into the game at that point. So you already have that one huge team that you have to be able to jump past, and that's Kansas City. But that's been the problem for everybody in the AFC. What makes me even more just out on the Ravens, and I think they're going to be really good this year, but in the postseason, I'm not going to believe it until I see it, even though I'm a huge Lamar fan, is they went up against the Bills this year in the playoffs. And the Bills didn't even play their greatest game. I know you had the ending with Mark Andrews and all that, but they lost to the Bills again. So you're really chasing two teams now in the AFC. And maybe you avoid one, but you got to, in all likelihood, to get to a Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat the Bills and you're going to have to beat the Chiefs. And you haven't beat either when it mattered in the postseason so far. So that's why you may have even more skepticism with the Ravens in the postseason than you would have had entering last season. Stu, what's your next pick?
So next, I'm usually worried about a sophomore slump for a really good rookie quarterback like the Commanders had last year, but I like what they did this offseason. They got Tunsil, obviously, to shore up the offensive line, and of course, our good friend Debo, who I don't think he's still an elite playmaker or receiver, but I think he's good enough to,
he had one elite season, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I don't think he's amazing, as some people say, but you put
a good number 2 option with
next
Terry.
to McLaurin, yeah. So I think when you look at the NFC, I think clearly you have the Eagles, Lions, and Rams, but I think the Commanders are, for sure, for me, the next team on the list.
Would you agree, Stu, this is where it's the oh crap moment of this draft?
Yes. This is very much the point where I'm not sure if I see the rest of these teams winning a Super Bowl.
So Chiefs, Lions, Rams were my first 3 selections. Stu already has 4 picks: Eagles, Bills, Ravens, and Commanders. Oh, this is where it gets tough. This is the hummina type of moment. You know what? I'm going to take a gamble here. This team's got a lot of talent. There's a lot of questions, though, when it looks to one position, and it's the quarterback. And the questions are, will they get Rodgers last moment? What is J.J. McCarthy going to be as a quarterback? And I do believe J.J. is going to be the starter, but Rodgers is going to keep on pushing this Minnesota narrative. But you look at Minnesota, their defense has improved year by year with Brian Flores. Offensively, you got Jefferson, you got Addison, you got Hawkinson, you still got Aaron Jones, who's a good running back. And you got a quarterback that, say what you want about maybe his limitations, but the dude's a winner. J.J. McCarthy was, 27-1, I believe, as a starter in college? And he was asked to really play behind that offensive line that was great and hand the ball off to Blake Corum, stud, Donovan Edwards as well. But when needed to, he made some big throws. You remember some of those throws up against Ohio State. You remember the way that he threaded the ball up against Alabama as well. I'm going to look at this one. I'm going to say it's a gamble. And this team always has terrible luck, too. When they get close, it's the Minnesota Vikings. We'll do a little skull chant. And then my last selection, I don't know if this team's going to be able to stop anybody this year. And if they lose Trey Hendrickson as well, they're really not going to be able to stop anybody. But maybe now with how much of an offensive league this is and how pass-heavy it is, maybe you could win a Super Bowl with just Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins and getting nothing out of your defense. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. So my 5, Chiefs, Lions, Rams, Vikings, Bengals. Stu's 4 right now. Eagles, Bills, Ravens, Commanders. And Stuart, this is now really the hummina, oh crap moment.
Yeah.
I think I know who you're going to take.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this. AFC or NFC?
The team I'm going to take is in the NFC.
It's in the NFC.
It is.
Okay. You know what? I wish I had a pen. So because then I could write it down, but I don't have a pen on me. Is this team in the NFC North?
It is.
Okay, so you're going off history.
Yeah.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the Packers...
I can't crush you for that.
They were a team I was really high in going into last year. Clearly, it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I just feel like there's something there with Love. There's enough weapons around him. I don't know.
Drafted Golden.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it, but again, compared to some of these other teams, I think they at least have a decent chance to win that division and maybe make it far. Did we miss someone or something?
You know what? I think we missed someone.
Interesting.
I think we missed someone.
Okay.
And I just talked about out of sight, out of mind. What about the Niners?
They're on my list. I considered them.
Yeah, but you didn't take them.
No, I have a little more faith in the Packers than the 49ers.
Okay, that's fair. So the Niners, I think, are one that could be an omission.
Texans, maybe.
Yeah, I considered the Texans because I like Stroud, but the wide receivers, you lose Diggs. Who knows when Tank Dell is going to be back? Nico Collins is tremendous. So it's just one of those things where, and the offensive line, they lost Tunsil, even though Tunsil, they wanted him out of there. And you got a new offensive coordinator, so there's some questions there. Chargers, Broncos, I don't think one of those teams are going to regress this year. I don't know which one, but one of those teams are going to regress this year. We talked about the Texans. You know, I can't put any eggs in the basket of the Steelers. And clearly, let's be real, the rest of the AFC outside of the Bills, none of those teams are Super Bowl contenders. So I think that's pretty damn good on that list. I think the Niners would be the only one that maybe you get some people with some gripes. But I'm good with what we did. Chiefs, Lions, Rams, Vikings, Bengals, my 5. Stu's 5, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, Commanders, and Packers. We'll take a break. We will talk to the man that created the NFL schedule. He's the NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling, Mike North. He'll join us on the other side. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You could book all your trips right now if you want to go see your NFL team play this year, because the schedule came out last night. You had all the creative videos that the teams did release, and now you can look through all the games. The NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling is Mike North, and he's kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show to talk about how the sauce is actually made with this NFL schedule. Mike, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Good to talk to you, Zach. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. So when I was told to read a book in school, I would never read the actual book. I would do Spark Notes. So give us the Spark Notes version of kind of the process in order to get the final product that we all saw last night with the NFL schedule.
Yep, those were called Cliff Notes back when I was in school. Yes, the Cliff Notes version of the NFL schedule is each of the 272 games have some value, some more than others, as you can imagine. So put the ones with the most value in the biggest national television windows. It's obviously good for our media partners, but it's also good for the fans. We should make sure that they can see all the games they want to see. And obviously it's sports. None of us know anything, and the crystal ball isn't always clear. So you make your best guess here in May, and 4 months from now, the season starts, and all of a sudden your best laid plans might take a detour, and you got to adjust. And if you do, that's what flexible scheduling is for, or the Saturday afternoon TBD pools, or CBS and Fox adjusting their regionalization maps. We're trying to get the best games in the best windows, get, MFV, maximum fan value, out of every single one of these games, while also not crossing that line of competitive fairness. We don't want any team to look at their schedule on release day and say, how could you have done this to us? We're dead and buried. We can't compete. No coach will say that, obviously, and no team believes that, but we shouldn't even be at that point. So maximize viewership, maximize engagement, maximize reach, minimize team competitive inequities. And if a team caught, the short straw for whatever reason, bad luck moves around. Hopefully it doesn't fall on you the same way year after year.
And also, let's be this, what we think we know now could change and age very differently the first few weeks of the season, because there's so many teams you have high expectations for that don't meet them, or in a more positive way, there's a lot of teams that we look at and we say, oh, how could they be any good with the schedule that they get? And they end up being a lot better than what we thought. All righty, Mike North here with us. Let's start with the first game, Eagles and Cowboys, to open up the season for the Super Bowl champs. For the Eagles, right, you knew they were going to be home. You could have picked the Cowboys, which you did. Bears, Rams, Broncos, Giants, Lions, Raiders, Commanders. Those were the potential home opponents. Why did you think the Cowboys were the right team to start off the season for the defending champs?
Yeah, every one of those options you just listed would have been perfectly fine, right? Kickoff has a kind of built-in floor in terms of fan interest and viewership. It's the first game after 4 months of us sitting around waiting for the season to start. You, me, and 9 friends could probably play the Eagles and get 20 million viewers, but I think they'd rather watch somebody, a little better, something with a storyline. And again, you probably could have leaned into the Rams. They gave the Eagles all they could handle in the playoffs last year. The Bears arguably won the offseason with the new coach and some of the additions they made on the offensive line. Washington adding Debo would probably change the dynamic coming back on an NFC Championship game rematch. They all would have worked. What you've got in your hand, though, is two Cowboys-Eagles games. And for the last couple of years, we've been a little unlucky. You're talking about top 5, top 8, top 10 viewership potential games every year, and we've waited maybe just a little too long to deploy, at least one end of the Cowboys-Eagles series. Last year we had it in Week 17. It was going to be in a big Fox 425 doubleheader window going to 100% of the country. We actually had to flex out of it and move it back to 1 o'clock. So one way to guarantee that you're getting, at least maximum value out of at least one end of the Cowboys-Eagles series, put it in Week 1, everybody undefeated, hope springs eternal, and the Eagles fans are going to love unfurling a banner in front of the Cowboys.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of camera shots on Jerry Jones during that, no doubt about it. I will say this. I don't think there's ever a wrong answer for the NFL when it comes to the schedule. Like, you could give me a great game early, and some people will say, oh, why are you giving us such a marquee matchup in a Week 1 or a Week 2? You're going to tune into that game whenever they play it. With that being said, the following week, you have a Super Bowl rematch, Eagles-Chiefs. Why go with that Week 2? Because some people will say, probably rather see that in the middle of the season or later on in the season.
Yeah, the truth is the Chiefs have a spectacular schedule this year. When you just look at their opponents, the Eagles game is great, obviously, but Dallas, Detroit, Washington, Baltimore, Buffalo, there's so many good Chiefs games. Something's got to go early, something's got to go middle, something's got to go late. One of the earliest decisions we made actually was kind of anchoring the back end of the Chiefs schedule with that Broncos game on Christmas. Knew we were doing 2 games on Netflix, 1 on Amazon. Obviously, all the focus is on the pretty new games on Netflix, and that Beyonce concert last year. I'm sure they're going to try to do something big and fun again this year. So you wanted to make sure Amazon, wasn't an afterthought for the 3 streamed games on Christmas. So kind of anchored Denver, Kansas City at the back end. We knew they were going to go to Brazil against the Chargers at some point. That's Week 1. And then you sprinkle through the middle so many good options. I think on Philly KC, play it early in the season, it's a Super Bowl rematch. Everybody's looking back to last year, looking back to that great game for the Eagles at least. You put it in the middle, okay, I'm sure it's still relevant, but maybe it's not the Super Bowl rematch anymore. Now it's, what are they this year? And then if you put it at the end, like we said earlier, you run the risk of maybe waiting a little too long to get maximum fan value out of the Super Bowl rematch. So get it in early. It's a Super Bowl rematch. Play it late. Maybe it's a Super Bowl preview, but you also run the risk of maybe somebody not having the season they hoped, somebody getting injured, one of the quarterbacks being out. God forbid Taylor and Travis break up. I mean, you run a lot of risks the longer you wait. So get it in early, get it in as a Fox doubleheader. They're going to be thrilled to bookend their season with that as their first 425 window.
I could already hear the people, the authors, already typing away at their keyboard. See, Taylor Swift, she does control the NFL. She does make the schedule.
Don't even speak it into existence.
So you mentioned Christmas Day, right? The NBA used to be synonymous with Christmas Day. I used to always laugh when years ago people would say, the NBA is closing in on the NFL. The NFL is king, and it always will be king. But man, you guys hit this out of the park on Christmas Day. You have Broncos Chiefs at night. Middle of the day or early afternoon, you have the Lions and the Vikings. And then you do have right before that the Cowboys and the Commanders. First off, do you feel like now the NFL is Christmas Day? And then also, was it intentional to go all rivalries on those games in division?
Yeah, I'll answer your second question first. The rivalry games late in the year, like we said, it's sports. None of us know anything. But one thing you can usually count on is those division games matter late in the year. Somebody's going to be playing for something, and even if one of the teams is, mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, if your season's over, the next best thing you could do is ruin your division opponent's season. Think about the Lions going into Lambeau a couple of years ago, game 272, and knocking them out of the playoffs. How many times have we seen a team needing a win to make the playoffs and getting beat by a division opponent that had nothing, quote unquote, nothing to play for? So division games down the stretch. I think Howard Katz, who ran this process for 20 years. He's retiring at the end of this year. Among his many legacies is going to be our strong preference for division games late in the year in big national windows. Even if we don't get lucky and have, two 12-4 teams, those division games are going to matter. So absolutely, yes, division games down the stretch, big national windows feels like a good bet for us. As to the NFL playing on Christmas, look, I think the fans have spoken, right? They vote with their remotes. They tell us what they care about. And I remember, 3 or 4 years ago, we had like a Broncos-Rams game on Christmas Day, both going nowhere, both, I think, on backup quarterbacks. I think Baker Mayfield might have actually
off the
been
street.
doing his 1 month stint. And the game was like 51-3, and it did 23.5 million viewers. That kind of tells you that as big as we can be, maybe on Thanksgiving, and we're going to test that this year with those 3 really good Thanksgiving games, I think we've got a shot to be that big on Christmas, too. So there's room for everybody in the sports industry. The NBA had a record-setting Christmas Day last year for their games, so there's room for both of us. But I think we've proven if we can play on a Wednesday, I think we're going to play on every Christmas, and I think you can get used to 2 or 3 games every December 25th for us, and division games do kind of make sense on that date.
Get into Thanksgiving. The one game out of the entire schedule that I just said, the NFL really knows what they're doing. 4:30, you have all these families together. You put the Chiefs, where either you love the Chiefs because you love what they've done and they won, or you can't stand them because they've cost your team's championships and you're trying to chase them. And then you get the most polarizing team in the Dallas Cowboys. Salute to you guys of the NFL for putting Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, all credit there goes to Hans Stroder. He's the EVP of media distribution, handles our media deals, handles the scheduling process. And kind of early in the process, when we took a look at the 272 matchups, you could tell there was a lot of quality in there this year. There was some really good high-end stuff. We talked about all the great Chiefs games, just the way the divisional rotations work. The NFC East rotated into the NFC North. Maybe more importantly, the NFC North rotated into the AFC North. So you talk about Green Bay, Mini, Detroit, playing Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincy, like all those sound like football games. That's a famous Howard Katz quote. Sounds like a football game. There was a lot of them this year. So you could really afford, if you wanted to pull out some of the very best right off the top and move them into windows where normally we don't go quite that big. So Hans had the idea very early in the process. He asked me what I thought. I told him absolutely not. No way. Terrible idea. But he was pretty convicted. He talked to David Burson over at CBS and just kind of teased him a little bit about it. And, hey, what would you think? What's David Burson supposed to say? You're going to give me Kansas City, Dallas on Thanksgiving? Yes, please. So we brought it to the commissioner. He told us to give it a run, take a look at it. Didn't commit right away. Just wanted to see what it would look like. Could you take a game like KC Dallas, put it on Thanksgiving, and knowing that you're doing so probably means you got to put a game like Green Bay, Detroit the window before it, right? You can't really tell Fox, oh, hey, you didn't get a juicy apple. We gave a big juicy apple to CBS that day. And same thing to NBC. If you're going to go that big at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you better be willing to go that big at 8 o'clock and still have something good left for Friday for Amazon on Black Friday. So it was a trickle down, and the commissioner kind of challenged us. Can you put those games in those windows and still build out a good Sunday night, a good Monday night, a good Thursday night, good Sunday afternoons, good international games, minimize 3-game road trips, move buys around, rest disparity, everything that it goes into a good schedule? Could you do it with your really best stuff on Thanksgiving? And I think we landed in a pretty good place, and we're really going to test the ceiling here. Hans used the phrase, take the Ferrari out of the garage. I think that's what we're doing on Thanksgiving this year.
So let me ask you this, because you can't always predict what's going to happen as Mike North is with us. So the Browns, right, we know how much of an intrigue Shedeur Sanders is, but you don't know when he's going to get on the field. Does that at all cross your mind? Maybe if the Browns, you look at them, probably not expect to be that great this year. Maybe you save a good game late just in case if they hand the baton later on in the season to Shedeur Sanders. Does that play any intrigue or any factor into the Browns schedule?
It's hard to give a look at a 5th round draft pick and try to build a schedule around a team that, didn't have the season that they wanted last year. It's impossible for us to know, is he going to play? Heck, is he going to make the roster, right? None of us know anything. That one's a tough one. We had enough uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers. Will he not? we didn't really factor Shador in. Unfortunately for him, it made for pretty good drama and pretty good television on draft day. But I don't think we could really, roll the dice and guess when Shador might be playing for the Browns if he even makes the team. So no thought on that. We joke about Taylor Swift. No thought on Taylor Swift. But yeah, half an eye on Aaron Rodgers. None of us know as we sit here today. So kind of tried to play it down the middle. If we knew he was playing, if he had signed a week ago, I imagine the Steelers' Week 1 game would probably be on national television. It'll probably be in prime time somewhere. So you know as much as we do. But if he does come back, certainly that Packers-Steelers game in Week 8 on Sunday Night Football gets even more interesting.
Yeah, just wondering. I heard what you just said in terms of Rodgers, and you don't know. I think most of us assume he's going to go to the Steelers. When you have a player, right, potentially playing for a new team, does that make it more appealing to have him go up against his old team in Week 1 and just say, hey, if that's a storyline, great. If not, Steelers, Jets, still you have two passionate fan bases going up against one another in Week 1 of the season.
Look, at worst case, it's, Justin Fields going against his former team. At best, it's Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers going against that former team. So there's storylines abound. It's Week 1. Steelers, Jets still sounds like a football game. I don't think that was one where we thought, oh my God, we absolutely have to put it in national television window. But maybe that Packers-Steelers game probably deserved that treatment. You put that on a Sunday at 1 o'clock with 8 or 9 other games going on, and then Aaron comes back and decides to play for the Steelers in his first game against the Packers, it's going to get a little buried. It's going to get a little lost. At best, we're going to get it to 30-40% of the country. Maybe if we'd have put it in the, double header week with CBS and Fox both having national games in Week 15, it's going to imbalance, what we're trying to do between CBS and Fox. If one of them is Aaron Rodgers against the Packers, like what's that other one got to be? So conscious about where that game might have fallen, but it's still Packers-Steelers. It still sounds like a football game. It's still a good Sunday night game, regardless of who's playing quarterback for the Steelers. They've played their way in the national television. They're not signing a free agent their way into national television. Never had a losing record, that coach. Always playoff relevant down the stretch. I think we can feel pretty good about Packers-Steelers Sunday night of Week 8. We'll feel a little better about it if Aaron's there.
Absolutely. Last thing I'll ask you, because this was asked to me yesterday when all these games were leaking out, and I said that it isn't unfair, but some people will say, oh, the Vikings back-to-back weeks, they're in Dublin and then they're in London. How did that come about? And I think I read somewhere that you said today that the Vikings actually were more on board with it than anyone could have thought.
Yeah, there was nothing done that surprised the Vikings on schedule release day. Started relatively early in the process. Once we knew the home teams for the international games, I reached out to all their potential visiting opponents and said, look, you can see the schedule. You know the Steelers are hosting a game in Dublin. You know you go to Pittsburgh this year. It's possible you might go to Ireland with the Steelers. You can see the schedule. You know the Browns are hosting a game in London. You visit the Browns this year. It's possible you might go to London to play the Browns this year. And the commissioner said, oh, you think they'll ever double them up? And I said, absolutely not. No chance. But I called them. I talked to the Vikings and I asked them. And they went from intrigued, open-minded, to willing, to frankly eager. I think if you talk to the Vikings, their words, not mine, but I think they're probably looking at it as, you got to go to Pittsburgh and Cleveland this year. Those two games may well have been scheduled in December, in the snow, outdoors, cold weather, hostile environment, as the Vikings are fighting for a wild card spot. Here you get to take two of those potentially, cold weather, hostile environment road games, get them out of the way, get them in early, get him on a neutral field. I think Coach knew exactly what he was doing when he had everybody kind of shift their mindset from willing to eager. And once they were willing to innovate with us a little bit, we were certainly willing to try something. First time team playing 2 games on the road internationally, 2 different countries, maybe with an eye towards this in the future. If we think about playing in, I don't know, the UAE somewhere or the Middle East, might somebody go to Europe 1 week and then continue on from there instead of having a ping pong back and forth or send 2 teams on long trips? So always open-minded, always trying new stuff. Kudos to the Vikings for being willing to give it a shot. We're all going to learn a little something and see what we do moving forward.
So you do all these interviews today, Mike North. The schedule comes out last night. Like, when you get a chance to breathe today, what's like the celebratory meal that you have?
Probably grab Chick-fil-A on the way home. That's always a good celebration. It's interesting. This whole process, as you know, has become a lot less of just, oh, the schedule came out. Now it's 3 or 4 days of breadcrumbs, a day of giving it to the teams, a day of giving it to the networks, a day or two of everybody reacting to it. More than anything, I think we're reacting to everybody's social media posts about their schedule releases. Today's fun because, we gave the schedules to the teams on Tuesday, and we gave the schedules to the networks on Wednesday. And at that point, they were all just reacting to their own schedules. Then last night, the whole schedule comes out. Now they see everybody else's, and now they almost have to react because, yes, we were happy with what we had, but now that I see what that guy got, now I'm less happy, and now I have so it's always that constant reevaluation. I was happy, but now I'm less so. It's a zero-sum game, right? Anything that's good for ESPN is bad for NBC. Anything that's good for the Jaguars is bad for the Texans. So it's a balancing act. Everybody's probably just a little disappointed today. It's probably right where we should be. Nobody should be really that mad, and nobody should be too happy. We shouldn't give everybody everything they want, and we shouldn't give anybody really nothing. So everybody gets something, nobody gets everything.
He's the NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling. He is Mike North. Mike, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Good to see you again. Take care, Zach.
There you go. Mike North joining us on the show as we get a whole debriefing on the NFL scheduling. I kind of like that. That's a regular guy in charge of something like this, which is so powerful. After the show, or after the whole day and all the interviews, I just get some Chick-fil-A. I kind of like that there from Mike North. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. We will get into something that politicians are trying to push with the Ohio State football team. We'll leave it for you right there. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Timberwolves have moved on to the conference finals and could find out their next opponent tonight. Game 6 in Denver. With the Thunder up 3-2 on the Nuggets. OKC has used fourth quarter rallies in each of the last 2 to go in front in the series. Head coach Mark Daigneault said tonight presents their biggest challenge yet.
We've had to really test ourselves through 5 games. Game 6 is going to be a massive test for us in Denver because it's on the road and because of the way they're going to play. And we'll grow from that as well, regardless of outcome.
The Thunder looking to move on to the conference finals for the first time since 2016. At the PGA Championship, Ryan Gerard now has some company atop the leaderboard as Cam Davis has moved into a tie for the lead at 5 under through 13. Of course, Gerard, a North Carolina native and North Carolina alum. And they have a one-shot lead over 4 golfers, among them Luke Donald. Rory McIlroy, a tough day for the Masters champ. 3 over 74 in his opening round. Scotty Scheffler, a 2 under par, 69. Baseball today, several afternoon games. And the Twins make it 11 straight, blanking the Orioles 4-0. Reds 7-1 winners over the White Sox, while the Braves top the Nationals 5-2. And the Blue Jays trail the Rays 5-2, top 6. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in up to 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. There we go. I could hear myself again. I don't know. I came back from the break and I was trying to do that read and I couldn't hear myself. And then right when I got to checkethos.com, that's when my headphones started to kick back in. So I think there's something wonky going on with this port because it's plugged in correctly. So I don't know what the heck just happened there. But anyway, you want to talk about just two fan bases in college football that I'll tell you, they just whined. And then my headphones went out again. What the heck is going on? All right, now they're back. I think now they're out. This is like karma for getting my headphones to start the show, where now they're just going to keep on cutting in and out. And I'm telling you, when I don't have headphones in my ears and I'm able to hear myself talk back after like never thinking that was ever a big deal, because when you grow up, you don't have headphones in your ears and you just talk to people and it's fine. But then when you start to do a show like this and you could hear yourself right away, then when you can't hear yourself, you feel absolutely naked. So we'll try this again because now I could hear myself. There are two fan bases in college football that they have to just be the two most whining fan bases ever. And the things they bitch about are so ridiculous. So I've seen this before from Penn State fans, and I have seen this before from Ohio State fans as well. So it's very fitting that the biggest Penn State honk in our studio, Ryan Hot Take Hickey, who every year predicts Penn State to basically win the national championship, that he is holding. It's kind of like, remember that photo of the Bloods and the Crips where they hold the bandana together, the red and blue bandana, and they're united as one? This is basically Ryan Hickey holding a white bandana with a red bandana with Ohio State fans, these losers. Oh my God. I saw a tweet from him today, and this was the tweet. One of the rare times I will welcome politics into sports. Finally, a politician using their power for the greater good. Well, actually, let's do it how Hickey would sound. One of the rare times I welcome politics into sports. I'm going to take off this weekend when I announce a brand new show, and I'm not going to show up. But finally, politicians using their powers for the greater good. All right. So that's Hickey basically tweeting that. So I go, all right, Hickey, who is the least political person I have ever met. I could not, and I'm not very political at all, but I can't tell you if Hickey is a Democrat, if Hickey is a Republican, if he voted for Harris, if he voted for Trump. I have no clue about the politics of Ryan Hot Take Hickey. So I see him saying politicians in sports, which usually never do vibe. And it's usually very cringeworthy when politicians do get into sports. That guy that used to be in Boston, or Massachusetts, Mayor Menino, who's no longer alive. And he called like Will Fork, Will Spoon, and he called Gronk Honk. Michael Menino, was it?
I don't remember his first name, but Mayor Menino for sure. And when Veritek split the uprights.
Oh, yes. And it's like, well, are you talking about Vinatieri? I think you are. He would always get those wrong. But anyway, this was the tweet. It was from On3 that Hickey was responding to. And of course, Hickey, I've never seen a Penn State guy slobber more over Ohio State. All that dude does is just trash Michigan. But Ohio State, Hickey, he just slobbers over Ohio State. Like he needs a napkin to clean up what Ohio State does to him. But anyway, this is what On3 had. New, an Ohio representative has presented a bill to prevent Ohio State games from being scheduled at noon. The bill would prevent games from beginning before 3:30 when State University is involved, except for the Michigan game. Like, this is the biggest load of nonsense and the biggest bitching that I consistently hear from Penn State fans and from Ohio State fans. And the Penn State fan, because all they do is they judge championships by how loud their fans could get, not by how many games that they could win. But I know why Hickey's bitching about this, because, his whiteout game sometimes doesn't get the greatest opponent because they put those opponents at 12, right at noon Eastern. So he freaks out about that. And the Ohio State fans, because Ohio State usually plays in the marquee games, and Fox is the partnership with Big Noon, right? You get a lot of 12 o'clock Ohio State games. Now, if you're a student, I can maybe understand being for this. Like, for example, if you're a student of Penn State or Ohio State, and you're currently at the university, you're actually get an exemption from my rant here. Because the students at Penn State, the students at Ohio State, what are you probably doing on Friday night? You're getting banged up, you're going to a party, you're having fun, and you don't want, you have to wake up when you go to these games because you tailgate, you party before. Like, those tailgates start at 6 a.m. So I understand why students aren't thrilled to go to a noon game. But then also you can have a little load management. You don't have to get sloshed on a Friday night. You get up a little bit early on a Saturday, and that's your big full day of partying. And I get it. Trust me. I used to be in college, and I used to party Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So tell me another day that ends in Y. So I understand that. So the college kids are exempt. But if you're like a graduate of those schools, like an alum of those schools, and you're like not just graduating where you're still in that college mode, but once you get to your late 20s or your 30s, if you're still living your college days and you're like, it's a shame that I have to get up so early to get to a 12 o'clock game, like, grow up. Seriously. And also, like, if you're watching the games on the couch, I think 12 o'clock is a fine start time on a Saturday. You start that game at 8 o'clock. I know you don't have to go to work on Sunday, but as you get older, you tend to go to bed earlier. So the Penn State fans and the Ohio State fans, they just bitch to bitch. Seriously. And some of the bitching that they do is insufferable. I don't care when the game, you want to play it at 12, play it at 12. Right? But am I going to sit there and lose my mind like some of these losers from Ohio State and some of these losers from Penn State like Hickey? Oh, we need it at 3:30. Oh, we need it at 8 o'clock. Like, I understand I want to have some primetime games, but personally, as someone that loves college football, I sit there all day and watch the games all day anyway. I love a 12 o'clock game. And also being able to go, and I know you, like, right, game day, you go right from there. Where do you change the channel? If you're at home, if you're not even going to the games, you change the channel right to 12 o'clock to whatever the college football games are, or you project them on multiple television screens. So, like, these unless if it's the Michigan game, we're going to ban games before 3:30 when a state university is involved and it's like a top 10 matchup or something. Like, come on, get lost. Get a life. Come on. Saturday's reserved for college football. Whenever you play is when you play. If you get a bunch of 12 o'clock games, suck it up, Buttercup. All right? Oh, my God. I can hear Hickey now. Too many 12 o'clock games. That's why Penn State didn't meet expectations this year. Oh, my goodness gracious. I'll give you my 18 favorite NFL games. Some of them start at 1 o'clock. Some of them start at 4:25. Some of them start at 8:20. We'll get to them next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
I'll ask a question here to start hour number 3 of our radio program. We had Mike North on, who is the NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling. And I'm going through all the team schedules and all the big games and all that stuff. And I just said, hey, at the end of the season, you get the Bills up against the Browns. I think it was like the third to last week of the season or something like that. Did trying to predict when potentially Shedeur Sanders will play impact at all Cleveland's schedule? And he said, no. He goes, he's a 5th-round pick. It's nearly impossible to predict when he's going to get on the field. And then he also said, I don't even know if he's going to make the roster. So I'll just ask this. How much of percentage of chance for a 5th-round pick when you also have Joe Flacco, who took the team to the playoffs 2 years ago and is now back, Kenny Pickett, who's a former 1st-round pick, and Dylan Gabriel, who they just used a 3rd-round pick on? If you had to just give me a number, Stu and Samter, what's the percentage of chance in your mind that Shedeur doesn't make the roster? Where do you think that number is at right now, that he does not make the roster? Stu, what would your number be?
I mean, there's always a chance, but I think it's very low, so I'll say 3%.
Okay. Samter?
Yeah, I'm going to go maybe a little bit higher just because there are so many on the roster right now. I guess 10%. It's still very low, but Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, Deshaun Watson, who's probably done there, but you just never know.
He's not even healthy, let's be real,
Yeah, but I mean, they might just still keep him on the roster, and 10%, still low, but, certainly a chance.
I thought 4%. I look at this right now. Forget Deshaun Watson, right? Throw him out. Probably Flacco or Pickett, one of them, will start week 1. I don't think that's how Cleveland should approach this, especially with 2 first-round picks next year. I would say let's evaluate the young guys now. So could you consider Kenny Pickett a young guy and you evaluate him there? Yes, absolutely. The more and more this goes on, I don't think Joe Flacco should make the team. And I said this yesterday, that if I was the Cleveland Browns and if I'm Andrew Berry and I'm Kevin Stefanski, the quarterback competition for me would be Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. Whoever's the best between those two, I pick who starts. And some will say, oh, well, why not Kenny Pickett? He's young as well. Yeah, that's fine. But does anyone actually think that Kenny Pickett's going to be their guy long term? No, he's now on his third NFL team. At least with Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, even though they were drafted way after Kenny Pickett. Right? Kenny Pickett was a first round. Dylan Gabriel was a third round. Shedeur Sanders was a fifth round. There's at least that unknown feeling there. So I guess you could argue, well, Zach, if you really want to see Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, wouldn't you then rather have Kenny Pickett off the roster? And maybe he goes to a place like New Orleans with Kellen Moore, where there's familiarity there coming over the Eagles. And at least you have Joe Flacco be the veteran presence. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But I think sometimes that's overblown too. Right? The veteran voice in the locker room. Because also you never know if the veteran voice is going to play along. Where I do think Joe Flacco would play along. But the moment that you sit him down and bench him, I'm not saying that he's not going to be all in, but he's probably then thinking, okay, that's it for me really in the NFL. And he did a nice job, fine job last year with the whole Anthony Richardson stuff and handling all that. But if I'm Cleveland, I really do think that they're going to carry Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel. Watson won't be healthy, and they're going to have to make a decision on who ends up playing or who ends up making the roster spot. Is it Joe Flacco or is it Kenny Pickett? And I will be curious to see who ends up winning that. Right now, if I was handicapping it, and I said it after the draft, and I still feel like this is the case, Pickett will be the week one starter for the Browns, even though I don't think he should. Flacco will be released or he'll be traded somewhere. And then I do think you'll have Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel on the depth chart as well. Anyway, I was going through the schedule today. I was going week by week. And I said to myself, all right, let me try to find 10 games. And I knew that wasn't going to be that difficult. But I wanted to end up getting 10 games that I thought were the best. And I just kept on jotting down games and games and games. I'm like, oh, I'm way past 10. So I said to myself, can I truncate it to just get the 10 best games? And then I'm counting and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And I go, oh, I got 18 games. I go, 18's good, right? You got 18 weeks in the regular season. Now, I don't do a game a week. Some weeks you have double. Some weeks I didn't even pick any. Some weeks you even have triple. So here are the 18 best NFL games that I think are on the schedule, that I view are the best. Week 1, Ravens at Bills. Very simple. You get Lamar Jackson up against Josh Allen, a rematch of the second round of the playoffs a year ago. Also week 1, Monday Night Football, Vikings at the Bears. Year 2 for Caleb Williams. We'll have more on Caleb Williams in a bit, as we did lead the show with this today, the Seth Wickersham book, where Caleb Williams and his father tried everything in their power to avoid the Chicago Bears when you had the NFL draft a year ago, where Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall pick. We'll play you some audio of that to reset that in about 15 minutes from now in a news brief. But you get Vikings at the Bears. Bears week 1, new life, new season. Williams, Ben Johnson, the changes to the offensive line. And for the Vikings, you would assume that J.J. McCarthy is going to be their starting quarterback with a really damn good team. Week 2, Super Bowl rematch. We've seen this Super Bowl twice. You now get the rematch version of it. It's the Eagles at the Chiefs in Arrowhead. That's week 2 at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Week 3. Here's one that I like a lot. And I think this one could be a little Perloff-ish, against the grain. Because usually, right, Stu, when you think about these matchups that you're really highlighting, it's rivalries or it's a quarterback matchup, right? Old versus new or just two elite quarterbacks. Bengals at Vikings in week 3 at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This is a battle to me of who's the best wide receiver in the NFL. LSU connections as well, but this is Jamar Chase up against Justin Jefferson in week 3 of the NFL season. Then we go to, we stay in week 3, Monday Night Football. Lions at the Ravens. You get 2 high-octane offensives. The Lions, obviously, with Goff and Gibbs. And you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you got Laporta. The Ravens, we know. You have Lamar Jackson and also Derrick Henry. Lions at Ravens, I expect a lot of points in that one. Quite frankly, I actually wish that game was in Detroit, because then that's the easiest over of all time. You just never know what the weather's going to be, even though it's early in the season, week 3 on Monday Night Football in Baltimore. Week 4, Ravens at the Chiefs at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. You get 2 of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL, 2 of the 4 actually best quarterbacks in the NFL, with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens going to Kansas City to do battle with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's week 4 at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. Week 5, This was thought to be a Super Bowl preview last year. I think there are some questions about the Bengals this year. The other team, it's can they get the job done? But Lions at Bengals, Week 5, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Another game where it's wide receivers at the wazoo and excellent quarterback play as long as everyone's healthy with Matthew Stafford and also Joe Burrow. And if the Bengals continue to start seasons the way that they do, maybe then this becomes a big game in Week 5 to get the Bengals back on track. You know what? That's something I have not looked at. The Cincinnati Bengals, their start of the season, they play the Browns and they play the Jaguars. They got to get off to a 2-0 start. And then it picks up in intensity. Minnesota, Broncos, Lions, and the Packers. All right, anyway. Week 6. This is another game. The Chiefs have an awesome schedule, dude. Lions at the Chiefs, Week 6. That is Sunday Night Football at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Already, I've given you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. The Chiefs are in 1, 2, 3 of those games. It's Kansas City. It's Mahomes' world, and we're all just living in it. Staying in Week 6, Monday Night Football. This game will be showing highlights of what happened last year with the Hail Mary. And also you get one great young quarterback and another guy that's trying to be great and live up to the hype. Bears at Commanders, Week 6, Monday Night Football. You get Caleb Williams going up against Jaden Daniels. We go to Week 9. I would argue maybe the best game of the season. This is a game, though, I don't give a rat's ass if Buffalo wins in the regular season. Can they get the job done in the postseason? CBS, loaded up Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Oh, wait a second, Jim. Week 9, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Oh, that game's in Buffalo, too. That's going to be a fun atmosphere. Week 10, 8:15 Monday Night Football. The Battle of the Tush Push. You know what? I think the Eagles should run the tush push on every game, on every play of the game up against the Packers to give you a giant bleep you middle finger and pretty much tell Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers to suck it. You know, quite frankly, if I'm the Eagles, I'd run the tush push every play of the game to make a point. Eagles at Packers, Week 10, Monday Night Football. Week 11. Man, I keep on saying Eagles or Chiefs. I feel like in every one of these matchups. Lions at Eagles, Sunday Night Football, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. That could be an NFC Championship game preview. A lot of people consider those to be the two best teams in the NFC. I just go all of Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day for Week 13. Think about the way that the NFL cooked on this one. You know, sometimes, right, there's usually a stinker game. And, like, the Lions used to be so bad, and it was like, ugh, why are the Lions on? And it'd be like, that's tradition. Don't you value tradition? Don't we have some principles and some morals here in this society? But think about the triple header we have on Thanksgiving. Oh, I can't wait for that lasagna coma, if I'm being honest. The lasagna and the cookie cake. Oh, I'm drooling right now just thinking about the lasagna on Thanksgiving. Packers at the Lions. Chiefs at the Cowboys. NFL cook. Bengals at the Ravens. That is an awesome triple header on Thanksgiving. Packers, Lions, huge matchup. Chiefs, Cowboys, two teams that are not well liked. Bengals, Ravens, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, AFC North rivalry. That's awesome. That is a great Thanksgiving slate. Week 14. Bengals at the Bills. Burrow going up against Josh Allen. That's at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Week 15. Lions at the Rams. Also 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Kelly Stafford won't be complaining about Lions fans because the game isn't in Detroit. So that's all the ways. That's been a fun rivalry, like an unorthodox rivalry that just popped out of nowhere because of that trade, where both teams have benefited from it greatly. Clearly, the Rams won the trade because they got a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, but the Lions were able to really set their foundation and build a Super Bowl contender after dumping off Matthew Stafford and getting Jared Goff and then some with the draft picks that they did get back. We go to week 15, 1 p.m., Ravens-Bengals. That's just a stellar matchup where you have Lamar Jackson going up against Joe Burrow and you get that AFC North rivalry. Oh, I gave you Ravens-Bengals twice because, I gave you Thanksgiving. So that's where it's a separation. But when I was jotting it down, I did go Ravens-Bengals. So they play week 13 and they do play in week 15. Not that much separation right there. I saw the Giants are also, for the Eagles, the Giants have 2 games in a 3-week span. The great Ricky Ricardo, the Spanish play-by-play voice of the Philadelphia Eagles, he was like, "Oy Dios míos," in the newsroom yesterday. He was complaining. He did not like that whatsoever. Ricky Ricardo was complaining to me yesterday about the Eagles playing the Giants 2 times in 3 weeks. I was like, "Oh, Ricky, what are you complaining about? 2 easy victories." Week 17, I'll give you the full slate. This is just Christmas Day, like how I did Thanksgiving. Rivalries. And you get all rivalries. Now, usually like 17, 18, you always get rivalry games. But to make them all rivalries on week 17 on Christmas Day, that's like NBA. How do you like them apples? How do you like these nuts, really, is what the NFL just said to the NBA. Cowboys at Commanders, Lions at Vikings, Broncos at Kansas City. Stellar. NFC East rivalry, NFC North rivalry, AFC West rivalry. Love it, love it, love it. And then finally, week 17, I'm going to give you an Eagles or a Chiefs game here. The Eagles up against the Buffalo Bills could be a potential Super Bowl preview. That is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. So those are the 18 games that stand out to me from the NFL regular season. When you look at Ravens at Bills, Vikings at Bears, Eagles at Chiefs, Bengals at Vikings, Lions at Ravens, Ravens at Chiefs, Lions at Bengals, Lions at Chiefs, a lot of Lions. Bears at Commanders, Chiefs at Bills, Eagles at Packers, Lions at Eagles. The whole Thanksgiving Day slate, Packers at Lions, Chiefs at Cowboys, Bengals at Ravens, Bengals at Bills, Lions at Rams, Ravens at Bengals. Week 17, all at Christmas Day, Cowboys at the Commanders, Lions at the Vikings, Denver at Kansas City, and then week 17, Eagles at the Bills. All righty, we'll take a break. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Caleb Williams and his father didn't originally want to go to Chicago. We got audio on that from Seth Wickersham, who has a new book coming out, American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. We'll play you that and also update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, let's get to a news brief here right now. The Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So we start the show today, as we did at, we started the show today, I should say, at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I was reading you this article about Caleb Williams and his father, and it's detailed in this book, American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. And it ended up being all about how the Williamses tried to avoid the Chicago Bears originally. And there was even this one plan about going to the United Football League and then trying to become a free agent. And it was like an article where none of the stuff surprises me in it, because this was talked about before the draft, how Caleb Williams was trying to avoid the Bears. And we found out he wanted to go to the Vikings, things like that. But the Bears held their ground, and they ended up drafting Caleb Williams. And through 1 year, I can't say it's great, but I can't say it's a disaster. Jaden Daniels played better. Bo Nix had an impressive rookie season. Drake May was solid with nothing around him in New England. And I still think Caleb Williams has a bright future, but this is the year where it's like, okay, it's go time. The Bears have to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs this year, the season is unsuccessful when you bring in Ben Johnson, you have Caleb Williams, and all the moves that they made. So anyway, this article hit the world today. Seth Wickersham, the author of the book, and he detailed a lot of stuff with excerpts from his book. He went on The Score in Chicago, and Seth Wickersham detailed the Williams' plan to try to avoid the Bears.
He tried to find any loophole he could. He consulted with lawyers, people like Marvin Demoff, Archie Manning, who helped do a little bit of that with Eli Manning back in the day. They considered whether to sign with the United Football League, for a year, and then if that would let him be an unrestricted free agent now. But as it got closer, it was just clear that their options were limited. The only thing he could really do was return to school. He didn't want to do that. So they went forward with the draft process. He went to the Combine, he met with the Bears, and he met also with Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings, and he really vibed well with O'Connell, so much to the point where he kind of started to dream of working with him. Obviously, that was a real long shot, and so really his only option was to try to do what Jack and John Elway did in 1983, and that's, go after a city and make the situation untenable. Carl Williams was ready to do it if that's what his son wanted, but at the end of the day, Caleb didn't want to, and as he told me, I wasn't ready to nuke Chicago. And after he visited the Bears, he came back and said, I can do it here. I want to be a Bear.
It kind of falls in line with Caleb Williams. Like, don't get me wrong. The dude, you can't call the dude a bust. The dude could still have a very bright future in the NFL. Always seems like there's drama around Caleb Williams. And also, some of what his family and him were saying, I get it. The Bears have the number 1 overall pick. I've said it before. Quarterbacks, right, usually go to die in Chicago. So I could understand maybe wanting to avoid it. But what were you doing? Was it all any bit realistic? Like, even if Caleb Williams got his wish and the Bears said, we're not going to draft you. All right, look back at that draft. You had the Bears at 1. You had the Commanders at 2 and the Patriots at 3. If the Bears took Jaden Daniels at 1, you don't think the Commanders or the Patriots would have taken you at 2 or 3? Like, the first potential trade-up that could have happened to the unrealistic team that you were going to go to would have been the Minnesota Vikings. Right? Maybe the Giants would trade up, but I'm saying the team you wanted to go to were the Vikings. They were picking at 11. They ended up moving up, I believe, 1 spot to get J.J. McCarthy at 10. But the Minnesota Vikings and the Bears would have never done a trade for a player of Caleb Williams. The Commanders were taking a quarterback. So would Caleb Williams have ever fallen 2-3 and then the Vikings going to trade up to get him? Probably not. So all this stuff, there was a lot of drama, and you weren't going to win anything. It's one thing if the Manning family does this. It's one thing even if Shador's dad, Dion, right, did this. Right? He said it, I'm going to get my son on the team that he wanted to, but Shador wasn't viewed as highly of a prospect as what Caleb Williams was. But Caleb Williams, like, his family didn't really have the clout to stand on. And for Caleb Williams, I think he ultimately realized, you know what, I don't want to go about it this way. And ultimately in the NFL, this is not the NBA where it's player empowerment. I give credit to Ryan Poles for saying, hey, we're taking you no matter what. So, a lot of drama there for ultimately something that we knew was always going to happen. Caleb Williams being the number 1 overall pick. 2 more we'll get from the score in Chicago with Seth Wickersham. Here is Seth Wickersham on Caleb's family not wanting to go to the Bears.
Seth, how close do you think the Williams family was to actually not being drafted by the Bears in some way, either getting out of it or having one of these plans come to fruition?
I mean, I think it was like, the gasoline's out, do we want to light the match? And Caleb didn't want to light the match.
Wow.
How dysfunctional did the Bears appear to be compared to other NFL organizations?
Well, I mean, the head coach and the offensive coordinator didn't make it through the season, so I mean, this isn't exactly the LA Rams offensive operation. Let's just put it that way.
But also, I'm gonna ask this. Yeah, obviously you want to play in a more stable spot. Who were the first 3 teams in the draft? Bears, Commanders, Patriots. And at that time, Bears viewed as a mess. Commanders, all right, you got a new owner, but they were still viewed as a mess. They changed it around in 1 year because of Jaden Daniels. Now, Caleb Williams, they could blame it on, the coaching and all that. And trust me, the coaching was hideous last year. Matt Eberflus should have never been there to begin with. And even the Patriots, though they have 6 championships, they were kind of viewed as a dysfunctional spot even last year. So where were you trying to avoid that you were going to go that was that much better, that was realistic? That's what I keep on asking with this. Ultimately, if I'm a Bears fan, I hear all this stuff today, I'm like, who gives a crap? He's our guy now. But the moment Caleb Williams doesn't play well, you'll have Chicago fans calling the score saying, this guy didn't even really want to be here. And he's not worth it. He's not even playing that well. They got to make the playoffs this year. They don't win a playoff game. Ben Johnson and the Bears need to go 10-7, and they need to make the playoffs this year. Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. Finally, this once again on the score, Seth Wickersham on Caleb Williams having to watch film alone this past year.
Yeah, it was early on and during the season. I think that he said publicly he wanted to be coached hard, and I don't know if he quite felt that way once the season was going. That quote stands out, and Alex Smith has talked about it. He was the number one pick of the draft, watching film by himself. No one taught him how to watch film. That's the type of instruction that, the Bears didn't provide at times for Caleb Williams, and I think it's a massive indictment on, that staff.
Staff is terrible. Eberlus, Waldron. The interim coach was Thomas Brown, I think. He went from, I think he was the running backs coach, to then interim offensive coordinator, to then interim head coach in the span of 4 weeks. Just wild. Ben Johnson was on the Herd today with Colin Cowherd. I guess when all this stuff was breaking, this was Ben Johnson talking about all the stuff that was out there with Seth Wickersham today.
Well, you talk about fears, and I don't see it quite the same way. I see this as what a great opportunity we have to do something that really has never been done. There hasn't been a 4,000-yard passer here in this franchise, and I think Caleb's going to be the first one. I see a chance for greatness here for him, and he feels the same way. I don't know what's gone on prior to him joining the organization, but he is very proud to be a Chicago Bear. That's what our conversations have included, and he's really excited to get to work right now and be the best version of himself for 2025.
And if you're Ben Johnson, it's who gives a bleep about this? It's a new sheriff in town. It's me. We'll make sure he knows how to watch film correctly. And I apologize. I got one thing wrong on Thomas Brown. He was the passing game coordinator, was his original title in Chicago. I gave him running backs coach. He was the passing game coordinator into offensive coordinator into interim head coach. And now, any idea where Thomas Brown is? Can you guess what team he's on right now? I knew this. I didn't know his role, but I knew what staff he was on.
Panthers.
That would be inaccurate. He was the Panthers offensive coordinator back in 2023. Sam, turn to guess on where Thomas Brown is right now.
Let's go Vikings.
He is the New England Patriots passing game coordinator and tight ends coach. So I think Drake May already knows how to watch film now, but think about all the problems in Chicago. Look how many different personnel you had there, and no one showed this guy how to watch film correctly? Ay. Let's go to Steve Kerr. What could have been if Steph Curry didn't get hurt? Remember, the Warriors got eliminated last night, 4-1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I know we had a shot. I know we could have gone the distance. Maybe we wouldn't have, but it doesn't matter. Again, everything in the playoffs is about who stays healthy and who gets hot.
They had a chance to get to the conference finals. NBA finals? I don't know about that. Chris Finch on back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearance with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
The challenge we laid down to our guys from day one was quite simple. It was one question. Were you a Western Conference Finals team, or were you a team that just happened to make the Western Conference Finals? And there's only one way to prove that. Go out and do it again.
I like that approach. Because a lot of times people thought that the Timberwolves this year were just resting on their laurels of last year, and they didn't look like they were primed to take that next step forward. And then come postseason time, I'll tell you, did they win that first game up against the Lakers, Stu? Right? They took the 1-0 series
lead. They did,
lead.
yes. And then the Lakers got 2, and then they won 3 straight.
I remember saying at the time, it felt like in that game one, the light bulb just went off for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And for everybody else, not in the Timberwolves, just everybody else. And oh yeah, we need to take this team a little bit more seriously than we were heading into the postseason. Let's go to Jaylen Brown winning Game 5 after the Tatum injury. This series still 3-2 in favor of the Knicks, but there is another day in this series, and it will happen tomorrow at Madison Square Garden.
I know it's easy to kind of write things off. Obviously, unfortunate what happened to JT, but we still got basketball to be played. I believe in this group, so, don't count us out just yet.
And let's go to Tom Thibodeau on the officiating in Game 6.
It was one of those games. I mean, we had 40. They had a lot as well. So it's like it was a choppy game. But I think that was also reflective of the aggression. I think that you saw Josh's layup. Yeah, I knew it was going to be that type of game.
I think the Knicks in the third quarter were in the bonus with 9 minutes remaining. 9 minutes remaining. That's how ridiculous some of the officiating was last night. It's not the reason why the Boston Celtics won the game, but the officiating was heavily in the favor of the Boston Celtics last night. And there were some questionable calls, to say the least, especially one against Karl Anthony Towns, which I still can't believe. Panthers and Maple Leafs. Remember the Maple Leafs are up 2-0 in this series? Cruising, right? Well, the Florida Panthers show you why I think they're still the best team in hockey. They've won the last 3. It was 2-2 going to Game 5 last night. And the Florida Panthers basically said night-night in this game after the second period because it was 4-0 after 2. Oh, my goodness gracious. And the Panthers ended up getting up to 6-0. The final was 6-1, but let's hear the final goal. It was a power play goal. This is the Panthers Radio Network. This was Sam Bennett making it 6-0 Cats.
Off the face up in front of Sean Bennett, and he scores a power play goal. Sam Bennett wastes no time. A wrister past the glove hand of Matt Murray, and the Panthers take a 6-0 lead here in Game 5.
Dougie Legends there was like, oh, another goal. Oh, who cares? Maybe him in the broadcast booth started having a little whiskey when they were up like 4-0 or something like that. He sounded like he was feeling pretty nicey, as John Gruden would say. Oilers and Golden Knights. This series is over. Edmonton's going back to the Western Conference Finals. They did take care of business up against the Golden Knights 4-1, so this series over in 5. It was 0-0 going into overtime. And then we listen up to the Oilers Radio Network on this game winner. It's the first goal of the game in OT.
Colson will bring it in on the left side. He'll get it all the way across to Draisaitl to the middle. The shot saved by Hill. The rebound, they're jamming away. Scores! The Edmonton Oilers pour off the bench. They win it 1-0 in overtime and win the series 4-1.
That's a great call. That's a great call. Finally, I'm just intrigued by the headline. When you look back at Paul George's time in Indy, we'd all say pretty successful, right? You remember the terrible injury that got suffered in the summer and all that stuff. But does anyone look back at Paul George and be like, man, he really missed out on winning a championship? I don't think so. I never viewed them as a team that was going to win. I thought he, did a sensational job in Indiana. So this is Paul George. He was on the Pivot podcast on not winning a ring in Indy.
Had there not been a LeBron James, I might have had one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Had we not played LeBron James or there was no LeBron James, we might have had one in Indiana. You know what I mean? I felt the guy on the East. I felt like I was, we played Carmelo. Got Carmelo out of there. Shout out, Mel. Played a tough Wizards with John and Bradley Beal. Nobody could come through us. Atlanta was a stacked team. Nobody could go through us.
I don't think that's wrong. In terms of maybe getting to an NBA Finals, winning it, that's a different thing. Right? Like, you could get through if LeBron wasn't there, but are you going to be able to win it? Like, the Orlando Magic with Dwight Howard made an NBA Finals. They weren't able to win it. Right? There's certain teams that you could get there, and it doesn't mean that necessarily you could win it. So, could they have got to the Finals if LeBron wasn't there? Sure, but LeBron was there. That's like saying in the AFC, imagine if Brady and Mahomes weren't there. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, definitely could have got to the Super Bowl. Like, what are we doing here? It's like, he was there, though. So, that's why you didn't end up getting to an NBA Finals, let alone winning a championship. All righty, we can fade it out. That's a news brief. Zach Gelb, Show, Infinity Sports Network. One more segment to play. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the Nuggets have been through a lot. Now they're just trying to survive again in the playoffs. After battling the Clippers to 7 games, they trail the Thunder 3-2, hosting tonight's Game 6 after blowing fourth-quarter leads in each of the last 2 games. At the PGA Championship, it started off as a nice story with Ryan Gerard, the North Carolina native and UNC grad, at the top of the leaderboard. But now Cam Davis has passed him. He's at 6 under, 1 shot better than Gerard and 2 shots better than a couple of golfers, among them Luke Donald. While it was a tough time for Masters champ Rory McIlroy, who's at 3 over after the opening round, Scotty Scheffler is at 2 under par. Lots of afternoon baseball today. One game still going. The Rays now lead the Blue Jays 8-3 in the bottom of the ninth. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a home run for Toronto today, his fifth of the season. The Braves top the Nationals by a score of 5-2, while the Twins just keep winning and winning. A 4-0 win today over the Orioles makes it 11 straight. Byron Buxton had a home run in the victory, and the Reds top the White Sox 7-1. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
I'll tell you, you got the Preakness this weekend. I saw General Bob in the YouTube chat was talking about the Preakness. No juice. I remember Samter asked me 2 weeks ago during the Derby, after Sovereignty won, hey, is the Triple Crown losing its luster since you had all those years from a firm until, you had a horse with the Triple Crown and you had two. I think it was in 2015 or 2018, something like that. Was it losing luster? I said, absolutely not. It's the only reason to really pay attention. Right after the Derby, it's okay. Then is the horse going to race in the Preakness? And Sovereignty isn't racing in the Preakness. As little juice as the Preakness has this weekend, I would think there is just as little juice for this PGA Championship. We usually at least put a golf guest on a Wednesday to preview the major championships. We didn't even do that this year. So that doesn't mean that the tournament can't deliver, but you just came off the Masters where you had an unbelievable Masters, and you had Rory McIlroy winning the Masters. We'll see what the storylines are this time tomorrow heading into the weekend. But if you don't get a good leaderboard at the top, with some notable names, I think this could be a dud of a weekend. I'm looking at it right now. For the guys that are in the top 8, the biggest name, Cam Davis, your leader, 6 under. Adam Scott is 4 under. Matt Fitzpatrick is 3 under. Keegan Bradley is 3 under. Terrell Haddon is 3 under right now. So tied for 19th, Scotty Scheffler, 2 under. Colin Morikawa is 2 under. Tony Finau is 1 under. Hideki Matsuyama is 1 under. Victor Hovland, 1 under. Wyndham Clark, even. Bryson DeChambeau, even. Xander Schauffele, 1 over. Will Zalatoris, 1 over. Patrick Reed, 1 over. Ricky Fowler, 2 over. Corey Connors, 2 over. I'm going to stop when I eventually get to Rory McIlroy. That's what I'm waiting to do so. Cam Young, 2 over. Justin Rose, 2 over. Patrick Cantlay, thank God I didn't bet him this time around. He's 3 over. Rory McIlroy, 3 over as well. Brooks Koepka, that's where I'll stop. He is 4 over. So not the most inspiring. I know we're not even fully through the first day, but not the most inspiring leaderboard. Stu, I'm going to do a little exercise here with you real quickly.
Ooh, okay.
I'm not going to tell you why I'm doing this exercise. Just give me win or loss. Win, loss, win, loss.
Awesome. Yes.
I'll tell you the team, obviously, because you got to win, loss.
I would hope.
Imagine I just gave you the opponents. What do you think, win or loss?
That'd be tough.
San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
They're at the Seahawks week 1.
Win.
At the Saints week 2.
Win.
Kind of sound like Francesa. Win.
Win, loss, win.
Week 3, the Cardinals.
I'll say that's a win.
Week 4, the Jaguars.
That is too a win.
All righty. Week 5, Thursday Night Football at the Rams.
That's a loss.
Week 6 at the Tampa Bay Baker Mayfield Buccaneers.
I'll say that's a loss.
Week 7, Atlanta Falcons, Sunday Night Football.
I'll say they win that game.
Alrighty. At the Texans, Week 8.
Loss.
At the Giants, Week 9.
Win.
Week 10, LA Rams.
Loss.
Okay. Week 11, at the Cardinals.
Win.
Okay. Week 12, Monday Night Football, Carolina Panthers.
Win.
Okay. Week 13, at the Cleveland Browns.
Win.
Wow. They got a bye week? Well, you could lose that. Week 15, Tennessee Titans.
Win.
Week 16, at the Colts.
I'll say win.
Oh, my God. Week 17, against the Bears.
I'll say loss.
Week 18, Seahawks.
Loss because they'll be in the playoffs by then at the rate I gave them.
So you gave them 11 wins.
Yeah.
For the Niners, a team that, right, is a fringe playoff team this year. I think morally people would say wild card team, outside chance to win the division. Rams to me are the team to beat in that division, but if it's not the Rams, I would say the Niners are the second.
Yeah.
The reason I did that, the strength of schedule, the 49ers had the easiest strength of schedule after the schedule was released yesterday.
It makes sense, too. They finished as bad as they did, and the division isn't a great division. So, yeah, they got kind of lucky there.
What do you think their over-under is? You want to take a guess? Take a stab at this?
So their over-under is like 9?
Samter, what's your guess over-under for the 49ers?
I'll go 9.5.
10.5 wins.
Nah. Especially after the schedule. It's very manageable.
And I understand, right, in terms of the over-under, but like even if Stu was a game or two off, like worst case there, that's 9 and 8 from Stu's 11. And you could even argue maybe there was a game that you disagree that you thought they should have won 1 or 2 more potentially. That team to me, I'm fascinated by because they're putting more on Brock Purdy's plate. They still got a good team. They lost Debo though. You know, they lost Hufanga on the defensive end from other players too. They had to shed a lot of salary for the inevitable contract that they're eventually going to pay to Brock Purdy. And also, it's a big year for Brandon Ayuk. I know all we do is sit here and talk about, hey, Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk got an enormous contract. And I know he got hurt last year, but even before he got hurt, remember Belichick in that first game of the season was ripping him up against the Jets because he dropped what would have been a touchdown in the end zone? Like, maybe a little bit less complain about the contract and getting your butt to OTAs, and maybe you would have caught that one. So, look at where we had Bill Belichick then to where Bill Belichick is now, where Jordan Hudson has been such a big story with this UNC football program. Belichick and UNC, I still can't believe that. But that's the Niners schedule. Now, you want to talk about individual pressure, though, and team pressure. Niners are right there. Because there's individual pressure on Purdy, individual pressure on Run CMC, individual pressure on Kittle, individual pressure on Brandon Ayuk as well. But yeah, the Niners have the easiest schedule in the league. Opponents only had a .415 winning percentage in 2024, and the over-under is 10.5. There is one, though, NFL pundit that is not in on the Niners this year. And this is what led me to do this exercise. Adam Schefter. He went out of his way to say, even though they have the easiest schedule, he pointed out how many guys that they lost this year, and it's something to just take a look. He said it's a setup for the 49ers to win. The league believes in the 49ers. They scheduled them on prime time 5 times, even after a 6-11 season. So the National Football League is saying the 49ers are going to be back after a 6-11 season, and that might be true, but I'm just going to warn you, this is a team that has got a lot of holes right now, and we'll see how all this shakes out. So that's as far as I think Schefter's going to say, because you got to protect sources and do everything. Like, that's not me going after him. I love Schefter. But you got to protect sources and things like that, and you don't want to know your 49er sources. So him saying, hey, they have a lot of holes right now is his way of saying, not really believing in the San Francisco 49ers. We have clarity on Michael Jordan and his role with on the NBA and NBC. This is the headline from Awful Announcing. Michael Jordan will reportedly appear in taped segments for NBA on NBC. This is going to be a disaster. He's not even going to be alive. So he's a special contributor, and Jordan is not Mr. Personality to begin with. His role still remains nebulous, but the initial plan is for him to appear in tape segments during the season to provide analysis that will air during pregame shows or halftime shows. Oh, not worth whatever they're paying him. That's got to just be tied into sponsorships and things like that, and he'll be like golfing and fishing with clients and things like that. What a bore. Tape segment, Samter?
Yeah, they're making a mistake here. Like, who's the one guy we always remember being close with Jordan in the media? Ahmad Rashad.
Yeah.
Ahmad Rashad did inside stuff for NBC. This is a great opportunity to bring back a little Ahmad Rashad, Michael Jordan kind of fun segment.
Well, you know
Taped
what?
or not, it'd be great.
I know it's on NBC. I don't like tape stuff. That's just me. I know it's on NBC, so you can't get Barkley involved. But I know Barkley and Jordan's relationship deteriorated. Let's just get those two in the same room.
That would be awesome.
Michael Jordan's going to be a zero on television. It's going to be so boring. I hate to say it, but he's not even going to appear live. Tape segments. Ugh.
You think he's going to be worse than Brady and Gretzky?
Hey, Brady was awesome in the playoffs this year. He was awesome. The regular season, not so much. And Gretzky hasn't been terrible live in the playoffs. You're not even having Michael Jordan live. It's a waste of time. All right, yeah, we'll do it for the Zach Gelb Show, the Infinity Sports Network today. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday show. Big thanks to Mike North, NFL VP of Broadcast Planning and Scheduling. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Samter. Big thanks to Greg Frank. Big thanks to Ack. And most importantly, big thanks to each and every one of you. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.